Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at American Mythology Monsters, Issue 1. This is a 3-part mini-series from American Mythology Productions, featuring 3 short stories, all of which are part 1 of 3. We have The Bite, written by Gleann, Moane, art by Demi, Mandir, letters by Natalie Jane. Then we have Parts, written by Konstantine, Paradias, art by Cantada, letters by Natalie Jane, and Safiya, written by Michael Gordon, art by Parsons, letters by Natalie Jane. I have the main cover by Allan Martinez and Arthur Hesli. That is a really cool cover. It actually got me to buy it because Mummy vs. Werewolf would be an interesting story. This was edited by Mike Wolfer, who does quite a bit of work over at American Mythology. Now, the first story starts off at the University of Maryland. There was some sort of crime that leads to a flashback to this university setting, and we learn that this professor has his wife leave him. She found out about an affair, and apparently he's had quite a few. A student even assaults him, so he goes on vacation realizing that he's probably going to lose his job and his life is spiraling apart. So what else do? You go to the Bahamas to get away from it all and apparently waste lots of money. Well, he gets pretty wasted and things go south really quick. We're left with a cliffhanger ending. There's some nudity in this story, but it was a fairly interesting story. This guy's kind of a scumbag though, so fairly unlikable. The next story, Parts, it's kind of a Dr. Frankenstein story where there's this biomechanoid thing that this doctor created. It's a guy that really wanted to add features onto himself. He wanted more mechanical parts and they keep giving him more. He ends up in this like insectoid type armor. It's really messed up and we end up with a pretty interesting cliffhanger there. That story was okay. Then Saphia takes place somewhere in Egypt around Cairo. The story's a little messy, but they do a scan of a mummy and the professor guy or doctor has clearly got a thing for his assistant whose name is Safiya, and there's something funny going on with that mummy. This story was actually pretty good. It was a little confusing, but I think that's because it's broken into 3 parts. So the first story is the best one, the third one is the second best, and the second story is the kind of least of my favorites. Overall though, for black and white, they're pretty well done. The second story is more digital art, and I think the art style was a little simplistic at times, but it's not bad. The first story is definitely more inking and heavy line work that would fit more black and white style, and the third one's kind of the same way. Thought the mummy looked really cool, and the other monster that's kind of alluded to at the beginning of that third story was pretty good, but the first story had the best art, I would say, the best traditional horror anthology style art like you would find in Creepy or Famous Monsters or something along those lines. But if you're into those old style horror comics like Vault of Horror, things like that, especially the black and white stuff from the magazine sizes, this will definitely appeal to you. It's got kind of that same feel, and you get part of 3 stories. I would actually try and get this in trade if you're interested, but it definitely seems like it's going to be better to read it as complete stories. But I thought it was pretty good. Worth a read. It's not my typical type of comic because I'm not real big on these anthology types where they're broken up into multi-part stories. I'd rather have one complete story in an issue, but it's not bad for what it is. If you like these style of comics, you'll definitely like this one, I think. That'll do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links to my Patreon, Streamlabs, and Teespring store are all in the description. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.